Hey there, welcome back to my studio. And so, with the last video about me reviewing the gold inks, it pushed me over 100 subscribers. It actually almost nearly doubled my subscriber count, and it gave me somewhat of a realization that it's not just my friends watching it. I figured for a while it's just like my friends watching these videos, and stuff like that. That's who's mainly supporting me. But I don't have 100 friends, and so there's got to be some fresh faces out there who don't really know who I am or my studio. And so I thought it would be a nice time to kind of do a studio tour, show off how my workflow goes, and all the weird little things that I have in my shop. And before I try to convince you that I have a really neat and nice print shop, the cleanest one in the world, I'll let you see what it looked like before I cleaned up. So when I'm in the middle of a project, my studio can get pretty messy. I usually clean it up in between projects, but that's not always the case. No one else uses this space, and so it's allowed to be messy. I know where everything is. The first thing over here is my desk setup. So I work on a big TV, so I can edit videos. This background I have over here, I thought it was funny. Back 3 years ago, when I had to teach and everything went online, I thought my students would get a laugh out of my background picture, but I have no idea, because when you're teaching on Zoom, everyone mutes themselves, and so I couldn't tell if anyone laughed. Drawing, I just have like a Samsung tablet S8 Plus, I think, and that helps me do digital stuff. I still do digital stuff, even though I'm like a really manual printmaker. As you'll see later, I do a lot of screen printing. This is my wall of inks. So each color here represents an ink that I own, and so I kind of have like the pure, unadulterated ink at the bottom, and then I kind of add transparency to the top, and the top one is just kind of a transparent base. And I like this because it lets me know what I can pick from and kind of gives me some inspiration for ideas. My favorite ink color, at least right now, Charbonnel Spring Green. Absolutely beautiful color. I'm not a big fan of green, but man, this nice spring green, pretty good. On my desk, I've got a scanner, Epson Perfection V39, pretty good. These are, I've been teasing these forever if you follow me on Instagram. They're going to be an upcoming video, but these are my tool holders. I keep everything I use to carve on my desk because I'm always carving, but it's just kind of like an octafold tool holder. That's pretty cool. Got one for that, and then I've got one for my engraving tools. They're held together with magnets, and so they kind of like clink together. They clasp themselves closed. It's pretty cool. And so, upcoming video on how to make your own. That's pretty cool. I actually have a lot of carving tools. I started off with this Speedball lino cut carving tool. It works really well, but I just think that the metal for the blade is just too cheap of a quality that when I try to sharpen it to a level of sharpness that I enjoy, the metal just can't handle it and it just breaks. And so they're good at staying like a relatively sharp, but they don't get as sharp as I want them to be. My main carving tools are these File Swiss-made carving tools. I always come back to these ones. I've had the other types. I've tried the flex cuts, I've tried other ones from McLean's, but I always come back to these file ones, and I'm not entirely sure what it is about it. Also, I hold these wrong, so don't come for me for advice on how to hold these. But I think maybe it's because I like this long shaft of the blade, and so I can really see the surrounding workpiece when I'm carving, as opposed to when I'm using the more Japanese style carving tools. I don't know, I feel like this big handle is just obscuring my vision. I like to use engraving tools on linoleum, probably for the same reason. It gets me really fine lines, and this really long and narrow shaft really helps me see around it. I sit on this terrible folding chair, and then my microphone. If you ever watch DIY Perks, he talked about making his own microphone, and so I went ahead and made my own too. It's a completely homemade microphone. Just kind of attached it to this little like bendy phone holder arm. In this little back corner, there's my computer. That's a painting that my friend gave me. It's a little glass painting. It's being held up with a command strip, and so one of these days the heat from the computer is gonna crinkle that adhesive and it's gonna shatter into the table. Down there is one of my favorite sculptures from my friend Veronica in grad school. She sold that to me, and he gets to be a little print shop buddy, just kind of watching everything that I do. This printer is the Canon Pixma IX6820, and it's pretty nice because it's a wide formatish kind of one, so I can print 13 by 19, and I do a lot of screen printing, so printing transparencies is pretty nice on this thing. So for printing presses, this is my absolutely monstrosity printing press. It's a homemade press, and so if you're looking to get one, sorry. And so the head just kind of comes up like that. It's got 2 tracks on it that are supposed to be full of oil. This thing drips because I didn't weld it so great, but it's supposed to have oil in these tracks, and so this can slide. Captain's wheel over there. Oh, and the clutch only engages the wheel. It doesn't take away the gears, and so I still have to pull it through all of that gear rotation. It's quite terrible, but it just clamps down like that. It's got a little latch. This is just like a latch that you get from I think they're sold for like Gates. I don't know. I got it from Amazon for like $10. And this thing's also like a captain's wheel I bought from Amazon for like $30. I threw in some ball bearings so it just kind of free spins onto this disc plate with a hole in it. This weird little stick thing right here is my drying rack, actually. So it folds up out of the way when I'm not using it, folds down, and then it's just a piece of cardboard folded in half, and I cut some slits in it with a knife, and you can just slide it up. My other printing press is this Holbein etching press. My friend Wes traded it for me for a piece of artwork. It only has 3 handles, but I kind of like having 2 of it. I don't feel like I need the 4th one, and then I can kind of flip it up out of the way, or I can flip it down, you know, either or. It's pretty nice. So yeah, so since this doesn't have micrometers on it, it's hard to tell the pressure, but this is just kind of a little piece of aluminum I got from a soda can. I just kind of cut a soda can into a little triangle piece here, so it's kind of stiff on there. And then this is just like a ruler in millimeters that I printed when I went to set pressure. I just kind of look at it like that and be like, all right, I need it to be 2.5 millimeters. And so yeah, we're down to 0, 1, 2, and then yeah, that's how I set the pressure. And then I got these springs on it. That's a bit of a modification, because if you ever use these types of etching presses, you know that this top roller has a little bit of wiggle to it, and so when it contacts your piece, it kind of does a little like a jump up onto your block, and I hate that. That's why I like the Charles brand presses, is because they have springs underneath it. But I never have good luck with compression springs, so I've got these little extension springs just kind of attached to these top threads up here, and so they kind of hold it in a constant up position, and that way it doesn't jump onto my workpiece when I print. And the top of the screws have this little Sharpie line, and so I can kind of tell, you know, quarter turn, half turn, so on and so forth. Alright, let's talk about all this horrible stuff that's underneath my table. First up, I guess, this is my litho box. It's stainless steel and polypropylene, and so these 2 things are resistant to nitric fumes. So that was fine. And this is my processing box for my litho stuff. So I've got everything I need to process in here. Gum Arabic. I've got a bigger container, but I just kind of put it into this old used plastic bottle. I got my rosin and my talc. And then these are just kind of like used cream cheese containers. I did get a lot of cream cheese spread to get these containers. And then inside, this is a watercolor like wash brush. So it had a big handle that came off of it, and then I just got to chop that off. And I really like them. They're really nice and soft, and so I feel like it's really great for being gentle with the stone. There's water, so I can always clean my droppers with the water vial. Phosphoric for anti-tint recipes. I have nitric for etching stones. I've got pH tabs, and then I've got a bunch of beakers for measuring out gum arabic. There was a science surplus store in Illinois near my grad school, and so I really got these for like 50 cents each. It was really nice. Used gum, asphaltum. I keep it in this old paint container because I didn't really have another. I wanted a squeeze bottle for sure, because it's always tough to get out of that metal can. I've got some droppers, and at the bottom there's baking soda, and that'll just help neutralize any of the acid fumes that kind of flow down their way to the bottom. This box, this is a book press kind of clamp that I made from like a twin screw vise. I never use this. Mat cutter stuff. I make my own frames. Yeah, I got that, what is it, the Logan like joint framer from Hobby Lobby back when they still had that 40% off coupon. Man, I miss that. And I've got my favorite little toy in here. These 1 kilogram like stainless steel weights. I don't know. They're really nice weights. Whenever I'm framing stuff, it's nice to hold things in position. They get to stay clean. It's definitely overkill. This box has letterpress stuff in it. And so I've got some extra chases for my Kelsey. And a whole bunch of old rollers. Oh, jeez. These things are molten. The guy who bought the press film gave these cores to me, and I don't know, I've just been holding on to them. I've got this really fun long screwdriver. It's great for adjusting the Kelsey's grippers. And this golden wrench. I painted this gold myself, but this is the wrench I use to adjust the pressure dials on the Kelsey. Behind that box is a bunch of mold making stuff. Bamboo stirrers. Oh, underneath it's got more letterpress stuff. Die cut blocks for the Chandler and Price that I've got. And a bunch of old letterpress photo blocks. A few lino cuts that I mounted for letterpress. If you saw my video on how to make a brayer, you'd know that I use this stuff to make my own brayers. And some clay stuff for other mold makings, like the making of the litho crayon mold. In this box is just an assorted box. In grad school, everybody bought a Nerf gun and we shoot each other in the studios. Yeah, I haven't used it since then. This stuff is all my stuff for making litho crayons. So I've got like, yeah, that's a scrap bag. Here's my litho crayon mold, and then silicone rubber. Yeah, it's just a mold, crayons. Nothing too exciting. And then a whole bunch of waxes. Let's see what's underneath you. Old blocks. Old lino cut blocks. Here we go, one of my favorite lino cuts. This cutting board that I did a wood engraving on, and it's too big to print. It's too thick to print on my etching press. That's just a ton of lino cuts. I've got this Twinkie box that's full of letters. It's pretty much anytime someone writes me a letter, I keep it in that box. It's all tech stuff. So in these two crates, it's all tech stuff. HDMI cables, the good stuff, computer components. Once you've built one computer, everyone you know asks you to be tech support, and so I've got a lot of stuff like that. And then this box that I don't want to grab out of here, but this is all of my ceramic works. See, this is why I don't like 3D work. And so I did a series on using soda cans as a medium to represent consumable memories and just kind of events that you kind of consume, you enjoy, but then you move on. But then the problem with 3D work is what do you do with it after you're done, because this stuff takes up so much space. The other side of this table, I've got my little sharpening jig over here. This is pretty handy. I sharpen a lot of tools because when you're the guy who knows how to sharpen tools, all your friends ask you to sharpen their tools for them. And so I got tired of doing it by hand, and so now I've got this work sharp kind of the sharpening station. And then there's this little custom table I made out of MDF, so I can link all of these things together because they're all on their own individual platforms. So that over there is my hole punch. I can't afford the really expensive Takish hole punch. I've got a little hot foil press over here, which is really nice. I do my own kind of I have a hot foil kind of stamp. Yeah, I have my own little custom stamp, so I can do a hot foil onto the kind of front page of all the books that I make. I've got this custom chase that I've made with a handle on it, and so I can attach this to the bottom of my hot foil press, and that way I can use my type. And so here's the homemade exposure unit that I have. It's pretty jank, but it gets the job done and it's compact. And so down below, it just has a rack, so I could just store my screens when they're drying. It acts as my dark room. Transparency onto there. And then my no vacuum exposure unit, and so I just have this foam, and I've got one of them. It's wrapped in a black t-shirt. On top, I've got a piece of wood. I need to make a custom bigger one. And then I've got this 20-pound dumbbell that I set on top for pressure. On the side, it's got a little darkroom timer, so I can just set it for 1 minute, and then it'll run. And it actually works really well. Like, it exposes my screens in 1 minute, and so that's pretty good. I do a lot of bookbinding, and so I have this nice little copy press. I got this from some weird dude in his barn. Over here, we just have a more modern day book press, and so when I need to do the big stacks of books, this one, I actually can't fit that many in there. Once you put the boards in there, it really eats up a lot of that space. And so this one, if I need to stack like a huge stack of books, I can use this one. These are homemade photopolymer base mounts, and so if you've ever used photopolymer, you know that you need a custom base mount for it, and so it kind of works. It works pretty well. It works well enough. It's cheaper than $200. This golden stapler that I got from Target. If you know me, you know that I love gold. And so back when I think I was like 19, I was like, man, I really love that golden stapler, but I don't really have a use for it. Also, it was expensive. For me, $15 was expensive at the time. I guess it's still kind of expensive for a stapler now. And I said, I can't justify buying that. But I said, when I get myself my own office and I start teaching, I'm going to have gold stationery. And so I said I would get this when I became a teacher. And so when I became a professor, I got the golden stapler, and I was very excited. Yeah, so printing presses aside, because I didn't actually buy those, this is the second most expensive thing that I got in my studio, which is a stack cutter. So it can stack reams of paper all at once. It's pretty nifty. I removed all the safeties off of it because the safeties were annoying, and they're not great for filming. Sorry, Aisha. Paper scrap collector for recycling. Bottom shelf over here, I just keep all of my paints. I rarely ever touch these, but I don't know where else to put them. Shelf above, all of my kind of chemicals, cleaning solvents, stuff like that. Shelf above, ink modifiers, and then Sharpies. That's everything to do mokuhanga, like Japanese style printing, and then a stack of tarlatan cloth that I don't really know what to do with because I don't print etchings anymore. all of my printing inks, so everything that's in a tube, everything that's in a can. Inks are my guilty habit thing. Whenever I'm in a new town and I stop by a new art store, and they have some inks, man, I love going out and getting some inks. There was an art store nearby in Kansas City, and they still had a whole bunch of Daniel Smith inks, and so I got really lucky because they went out of business a long time ago, and I managed to pick up a lot of their inks. They still have a few of them there now, Creative Cold Snow in Kansas City, but I think they're only the water-soluble ones left, and I just kind of like having the traditional oil-based ones. Sprayers, 3 ink knives. I've got a bunch of these speedball brayers. I've got a lot of these A-Big brayers. I actually really like these. They're really firm. I know that they're a bit too firm for some people, but I really like these. They're great for holding up my lines, and they're a pretty good durometer. This was only like $40, and if you've ever bought brayers before, you know that they get way more expensive than that. And then the homemade Big Chungus of a brayer, my whopping 3-inch diameter. This thing's great for lithos. It's a nice softer rubber, and so it does great for litho, one-handed litho. I actually have 2 rollers, 14-inch and an 18-inch, because someone that I knew who had a print shop, their students had melted the rubber on the rollers from being careless and using the wrong chemicals. And so I said, hey, can I have those? And he said, sure. And so I got them, and I took them over to Ramco Rollers. They're great people, and I had them redo the rubber on my rollers. And so I think it ended up being around like $150 per roller-ish. And so, I mean, if you've ever bought a roller, you know that these are like $400, $500. This is like the nice nitrile rubber on them. So that's great, although I never get a chance to use these because I don't print that big. So rollers up here. That's the tub of gold inks because I didn't know where to put them. Down here, it's all screen printing stuff. I have a lot of screen printing stuff, and so cleaning chemicals, the adhesives, stuff like that. I've got some mesh. I actually stretch my own screens every now and then when they get too bad. And then I've got right here all my fabric inks. For the most part, I really like these Green Galaxy ones, and I use these as most of the base kind of colors and stuff like that. But I do like a lot of the Speedball specialty ones, and so this metallic blue, I don't know how well it comes up on camera, but this is my favorite of all the kind of Speedball colored inks. Up above, this is all my paper inks, and so when I start doing for more fine art works on paper, these are the ones that I use. Squeegees, yeah, lack of a better place to do it. Spatulas, I actually only have 4 spatulas. Well, I guess I only have 3 spatulas. I was leaving a spatula out to dry once, and then Kiki, my old dog, kind of chewed up this one, and so it's not really much useful anymore. And then the tape shelf. HD clear tape and this Duck Easy Start tape. My favorite 2 tapes when I'm taping up screens because they don't do that weird floppy and get gross. Up above, you've got more office toys. Well, these 2, someone gave me these inks. They're Plastisol. I don't usually use Plastisol inks, and so they've just been kind of sitting here. This one, if you watch Bob Burgers, Zoe and I watched it, and she got this for me as my office toy because she says that all the best professors have weird toys in their office, and so I kept it in my office. It actually smells really, really chemically and gross. It does apparently glow in the dark, but I don't know. It's never dark in my office, so I can't tell. Up here we've got Shanky the Frog. He is my studio assistant. I got him from a gas station back in Iowa on my way back from the Printers Fair in Mount Pleasant, Iowa. And he's got this little witch's hat. I did an animation with him once with my students as a demo animation for my projects, and I've kept him around. Sometimes I need him to talk for me during critiques. I have no idea if my students enjoy him or not. And see, my Shanky voice is I kind of kept it high up, more like a Kermit the Frog voice, but I'm thinking maybe more it should be intimidating, like a toad, like deep voice. I have trouble. I just talked a lot, and so I don't know if I have enough like phlegm in my throat to be like a toad voice. If you don't clean up your mess, I'm gonna come and stab you in your sleep. Yeah, Shanky used to have a box cutter, not one like this. It was a more intimidating box cutter. But see, I think we were in senior seminar, and Katarina was playing with it and the box cutter, and dropped the knife onto my leg, and I think at that point we decided that Shanky doesn't get a knife anymore. I had to take it away from him before he hurt someone. Next to Shanky, we have Brayer Barbie, who's still a work in progress, but this is a Barbie that I have encased in resin, and the goal is to have her turn into a functioning printmaking roller or brayer. I could encase her in rubber and then just kind of attach handles on the ends, but I wasn't quite so sure about that because I didn't know how easy it would be to see her through another extra layer of rubber. I think I might do like one of those like Conrad things where it has like extra rollers on the bottom and you attach handles to the side, and it kind of does that weird little thing, and I should just be kind of like rotating like one of those hot dogs at Quick Trip. Work in progress. I actually used her at my last house as a rolling pin because I didn't have a rolling pin. Down here I've got a bunch of paper for bookbinding and stuff like that, and so it's just this kind of drawing paper I can buy by the ream from Blick. Some homemade bookbinding cradles. And so I just kind of took a 2x3 on the table saw and just kind of, chopped it off into a V shape, drilled some holes in it. Up here, I've got some tools, glues, brushes, punch boards. And so if you ever need to punch holes in things for like Japanese stab binding or the holes in books, there's just 2 pieces of foam core to make a nice soft spot, and then a mat board in the back, so hopefully you don't punch through to the table. This is scrap blocks for projects, and so here's a bunch of linoleum. It's just a box full of linoleum. Wood blocks, some engraving tools. I've got homemade litho pencils. They're a lot like mechanical pencils. But I've got these cool little things right here, and my litho pencils are really thin, and so I can really use them like a drawing, really thin drawing methods. And then over here in this one, my more traditional litho supplies. So I've got stones, pencils, corns pencils, the usual. My favorite tool, but this X-Acto knife blade with the thick one, the absolute best for scraping. This is a box. It's just an old tea box, but it's got my sharpening stuff in here. It's supposed to have a bottle of oil there, but I just use these as oil stones. These are actually a $30 set off of Amazon that I've been using for sharpening. They should be really handy. And then up top, these are all scrap book cloths. And so, pieces of fabric that are too small for like normal books, or use it for something. I make my own book cloths, so I get like really nice fabric patterns, and then back it to paper myself. Some decorative papers. I don't know why. I might use them sometime. So I've got denim papers I made from a bunch of jeans that we did for Print Club back a long time ago. Paper marbling. I'm not a big fan of marbled paper. I feel like it's too chaotic for my taste. I actually don't know what the hell this paper is. This one, my friend Finn made. It's peanuts. They actually didn't give this to me, but they left it behind in their drawer, and so I snagged it up after they left. One of my favorites, recycled papers. I use these for a lot of book covers. It just has lots of nice little flecks in it. That's the nice thing about having a print shop kind of mixed with your paper making studio, is that you can just recycle all of your old prints back into nice decorative papers. Up here, this is just kind of like assorted merchandise stuff. We've got unfinished books here, all of my old prints that are for sale on my website. I just keep them all stocked up. There's a lot of them. And then This is a whole box of stickers. I don't know. I never know what to do with stickers. Artist books. And so artist books that I've gotten, collected, made myself. This one was, oh yeah, it's a fold-out ink gun. This one is litho and then watercolor at the bottom, and then it kind of folds up into like this little cover right here. It's pretty neat. And then I have this one right here was actually my thesis exhibition piece, and so it is a 2-year diary that I've compiled. So it's about 30 feet long, really hard to display anywhere. But if you're gonna tell, I really like accordion books. So these are all books that are blank, ready to be sold. So I just have these really long, nice blank sketchbooks, of course, with the gold foil emblem on the front. My friend Saffron actually is the one who convinced me to start making long books, because she really likes long books and is frustrated that there's not too many options out there. Normal size sketchbooks, fun decorative cover papers, just normal papers on the inside. Books to be sold. I'm terrible at updating my website, but every now and then I'll post sales to Instagram. Off to the side, this shelf isn't anything. This is just kind of my parents' stuff. In the middle of the room, I have this work table. So I got this from Hobby Lobby back when it was on sale. I've got a bunch of rulers scattered around here because I wish I had like a vertical space to mount all these rulers, but I don't. So they just kind of sit around this table. This paper cutter, I was at the printers fair, I want to say like 5 years ago, and it was just this guy standing outside, and he was like, "Hey kid, you want to buy a paper cutter?" And I was like, maybe. And he's like, $20. And so I was like, I'll think about it. And he's like, no, don't think about it. I might sell it to someone else. And I said, damn, you're right. And I ended up buying a paper cutter on the fly. But $20 is still pretty good though. Over here, it's just like a handy cup holder that's supposed to clamp onto your desk. But I put it on the side of this desk, and it's supposed to like hold your drinks when you're working on your office desk. But I like it to hold my pencils and stuff. And underneath, first crate, I've got bookbinding supplies. Basically everything I need to make a book. It's nice to kind of have it in one spot, and so I can just drag this whole crate over to my desk. Cool thing about these, I have these brass strips here. I get these actually from like Ace Hardwares, but most hardware stores, Hobby Lobby, they sell these, but they're made to be specific thicknesses. And so this one's like 1 inch, this one's a 1/4 inch, 3/4 inch, and then 1/2 inch. And so whenever I'm making books and I need like equal spacing around, I can just pull out one of these and kind of put it in between the covers of my books, and then they'll be equal spaced throughout. And so that's really handy. This is a little like rolly like nightstand. On top, this is where I keep my papers for printing. Underneath, I keep my glass slab and phone book or catalog for cleaning up inks. And then down underneath, I've got some gloves and used rags. Then down here, I just kind of keep my litho stuff. And so my litho stones, I've got them stacked because I don't really have any better way to do it. These are like little pieces of wood that I've kind of attached carpet onto one side. So if you go to like the back of like Home Depot and stuff like that, they'll have carpet remnants that they'll sell really cheap, just kind of leftover scraps of carpet. And so I got one of those rolls, attached it to the bottom of some wood, and that way they slide around. I can put it on my desk and slide it around. It makes them really easy to slide around, and you don't scratch up your surface. This over here is my stone graining bin. And so this is just a plastic tub with some wood slats over it. And I keep all of my litho grits in these old like spice shaker bottles. Over here, I keep my compression drying system. And so it's just kind of got some cardboards, felts, blotters. Anytime I get a paper order from Blick, I save up the cardboard sheets, and so I can do a compression drying system. Anyone who's ever run paper making will know that cardboard sheets are quite invaluable. And then, of course, lastly, this is my t-shirt printing press. And so this is a dynamic press. Yeah, this is the most expensive thing I spent money on in the studio. I actually went up to Iowa. Some person was selling it for $1,000, and so I actually went up and rescued it. For me, my main source of income is t-shirt printing because YouTube doesn't pay me anything or anything like that yet. And so I've invested quite a bit into doing some nice hand quality t-shirts. It's a pretty nice press. I don't really know what else to say about it. You can buy a t-shirt from my website if you want to support me. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my studio tour. I actually have 2 more presses. I have a Chandler and Price and a Kelsey letterpress, but those are they're under a stack of a lot of stuff. They're hard to get at. I probably neglect them more than I probably should be, but it's gonna be a pain in the butt to bring them out for this video. They don't live down here, they live in the garage. And so thank you again for helping me reach this milestone of 100 subscribers. So hopefully maybe you enjoyed seeing some of my studio, my workflow, maybe gave you some ideas on things to do for your own studio. I'll see you next time with a new video. Look at this horrible setup. Giant battery pack taped to the tripod. The screen that I couldn't force to go into landscape mode, and so it's just gonna have to sit sideways like this. And then the adapters, and then up to my phone on this homemade tripod swing arm mount. It's just a copper pipe and some clamps.